On a biting cold night in New York City during the late 1800s, snow blanketed the streets, muffling every sound except for the distant echoes of Christmas carolers. Inside a dim, cluttered shop sat Ebenezer Morley, an old shopkeeper with a heart as cold as the weather outside. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across his wrinkled face as he hunched over his desk, counting piles of coins with trembling, greedy hands. He had no family, no friends, only the company of his wealth, which he guarded fiercely. The cheerful carols from outside seeped through the cracks of the old wooden door, but Morley's face twisted with irritation. He stood up abruptly, stormed to the entrance, and barked at the carolers to leave, slamming the door shut behind him. He muttered bitterly about the foolishness of kindness and generosity. Moments later, a faint tapping sound drew his attention. He turned to see a young homeless boy standing outside his window, his face pale and thin, his clothes torn and covered in snow. The boy's breath fogged the glass as he pleaded silently for shelter, his small hands shivering as he pressed them to the window. Morley's eyes narrowed. Without a word, he stormed to the door, opened it just enough to speak, and coldly told the boy to go away, claiming he had nothing to offer. The boy's eyes filled with tears, but before he could speak, Morley slammed the door with such force that the candle's flame nearly went out. As the boy disappeared into the snowy darkness, Morley returned to his coins, but for a brief moment, even he could not ignore the lingering chill that seemed to seep deeper than the winter cold, settling into his very soul. That night, as the wind howled outside and the city lay silent under its heavy blanket of snow, Ebenezer Morley stirred restlessly in his sleep. Suddenly, a soft glow filled his dark room, and he awoke with a start. Standing before him was a woman, wrapped in tattered shawls, her face gentle yet sorrowful, her entire form surrounded by a faint, ethereal light. Before he could speak, she raised a finger to her lips and whispered, "I am the ghost of kindness lost." Her voice was soft but carried great weight. Without waiting for his reply, she reached out and touched his hand. Instantly, the room melted away, and Morley found himself standing in a familiar, long-forgotten street, watching a scene from his own youth. There he was, young, humble, and full of life, offering bread to a stranger by a fire, sharing what little he had. His laughter rang through the air, filled with hope and warmth. He watched in silence as his younger self opened his tiny shop to the hungry, giving freely, believing in the good of people. But as the vision shifted, Morley saw himself grow older. Faces once kind turned cold, friendships crumbled, and betrayals cut deep. He watched himself slowly change, becoming guarded, suspicious, and obsessed with money. His youthful kindness faded, replaced by bitterness and fear. Tears welled in his eyes as he watched his own heart harden over time. The ghost's voice echoed softly, "Every act of kindness forgotten leaves a shadow behind." Morley's chest ached as the vision vanished, leaving him alone again in the darkness, haunted not by the ghost's presence, but by the warmth he had lost within himself. As the clock struck midnight, its chimes echoed through Morley's dark, silent room. Suddenly, the air grew heavy, and the shadows deepened. From the darkness emerged the second ghost, a hunched, grim figure dragging heavy chains forged from gold coins, ledgers, and locked boxes. Every step the ghost took sent the sound of clanking metal ringing through the room. The ghost's hollow eyes met Morley's, and in a voice like grinding stone, he spoke, "I am the ghost of greed's weight." Without waiting for permission, the ghost waved a bony hand, and the walls of Morley's room vanished. In their place appeared scenes from his life, harsh, cold, and painful to witness. Morley saw himself behind his shop counter, turning away hungry workers who begged for credit to feed their families. He saw neighbors evicted from their homes after he raised rents beyond what they could pay. He saw old friends leaving his shop in sorrow, their outstretched hands rejected, their faces marked by betrayal. For every act of cruelty and selfishness, a glowing, molten link appeared and fastened itself to the ghost's growing chain. The ghost's burden grew heavier with each scene until it was too great for him to stand upright, forcing him to crawl under its weight. Morley's heart pounded as he watched, helpless, while faces of those he had hurt flickered by like fading candle flames, faces of people he could have helped but didn't. Suddenly, he saw himself among them, alone and forgotten, trapped in darkness while others moved forward without him. Tears spilled down Morley's cheeks as the crushing truth set in. The ghost's voice thundered, "This is the weight of a life lived only for oneself." Morley collapsed to his knees, weeping, unable to bear the burden he had created. As the night deepened and Morley sat trembling in his chair, a soft, golden light began to fill the room. From that glow emerged the third ghost, a radiant child with bright, innocent eyes, her presence warm and comforting. Her smile was gentle, and her voice was as soft as a breeze. "I am the ghost of hope," she said, taking Morley's trembling hand. In an instant, the room transformed into a vibrant scene filled with life. Morley saw himself, older yet somehow lighter, standing in the doorway of his shop, but this time, his face was kind, his arms open. He watched as the poor from the streets gathered inside, welcomed with food, warmth, and shelter. The once cold and empty shop was now filled with laughter, music, and the glow of shared kindness. Then, the vision shifted to the same homeless boy Morley had once turned away. Now grown into a young man, the boy stood proudly at the front of the crowd, leading efforts to help others in need. His words were filled with compassion, and his eyes shone with gratitude. Morley realized, with tears in his eyes, that this young man had been shaped by one simple act of mercy, his own decision to open his heart. "You still have time," the ghost whispered. "Kindness spreads, far beyond what we can see." As the vision faded, the child's light remained, softly illuminating the dark room. Morley's heart felt lighter, filled with something he hadn't felt in years, hope. With a final, knowing smile, the ghost of hope disappeared, leaving Morley alone but forever changed, his heart now burning with a desire to rewrite his story before it was too late. Morley awoke in his chair, his face wet with tears, his heart pounding as if it had been torn open and stitched back together all in one night. The morning light crept through the window, soft and golden against the fading snow outside. But Morley didn't sit still. Without a second thought, he rose, grabbed his coat, and rushed out into the freezing street. His eyes searched desperately until they found the small figure huddled beneath the shop's awning, the same homeless boy he had turned away. The boy sat shivering, his face pale and hopeless. Without a word, Morley knelt down, gently wrapping his coat around the boy's frail shoulders. "Come inside, lad," he whispered, his voice breaking. Inside the shop, Morley lit the fire, prepared a hot meal, and gave the boy warm clothes from his own chest. As the boy ate, Morley sat across from him, watching with a soft, genuine smile, a smile that hadn't touched his face in decades. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. Soon, more people appeared, hungry, cold, and in need, and Morley welcomed them all. He opened his doors wide, turning his once cold, dark shop into a place of comfort and hope. Over the weeks that followed, Morley's shop became a haven for the poor, filled with laughter, warmth, and kindness. He was no longer seen as the bitter old shopkeeper, but as, at the heart of the street, a man whose generosity touched every life around him. And outside, the snow kept falling, but inside, there was only light. Morley had found something far greater than wealth, the joy of a heart reborn through kindness. In the end, The Last Visitor, a tale of three ghosts becomes more than just a ghost story, it becomes a powerful reminder of the impact a single act of kindness can have. Through the haunting visits of the ghosts of kindness lost, greed's weight, and hope, Ebenezer Morley is forced to confront the life he has lived, one shaped by selfishness, fear, and isolation. But just as darkness seemed to have fully claimed his heart, hope rekindled within him. Morley's transformation is not just about personal redemption, it's about the ripple effect of compassion. By saving one cold, hungry boy, he sparks a wave of change, turning his once lonely shop into a haven of generosity and warmth. He learns that true wealth is not measured by coins but by the lives we touch and the love we share. This story ultimately leaves us with a heartfelt message: it is never too late to change. No matter how far we stray, there is always a way back through kindness. The smallest acts, sharing food, offering warmth, opening a door, can change the course of not just one life, but many. And sometimes, it only takes a second chance, a little hope, and an open heart to begin again. It's a timeless tale of redemption and compassion, reminding us all that the greatest legacy we can leave behind is kindness.